Hey there, YouTube. This is Mr. Luwufu, and I'm gonna talk. As you can see by the title, this past Pro Tour, specifically Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir, has had quite the talk, and not just about what decks made top 8. There were quite a few scandals that happened, and it's unfortunate for the game. So I figure for those of you that haven't been in the loop or not paid attention exactly what's been going on, this is something that I'm actually really passionate about. Is underground keyboard dojo cage fighters happening. I'm gonna turn off this autofocus because it's ruining the thing. So let's start with day one. So day one, there were two prominent disqualifications that earned a lot of traction, at least in some online forums. The first one was Jeremy Dizani. For those who don't know, Dizani is a very prominent professional player. He was given some stern talking to after, I believe it was the World Championship, where he apparently, and again I apparently talked to one of the vendors and got cards that were requested so he could scout out deck lists before the event. And in Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir, he was given a disqualification for lying to a judge. Now, for those of you that don't know exactly what's happening, anytime a judge, like you get called over for a judge and the judge is asking you questions and everything, the worst possible thing you can do, and hopefully this should be obvious, is lie to them. Be honest to judges. That's, if you lie to them, that's grounds for disqualification. That's exactly what happened to Dizani on day one. Now, the second one, and this one got a lot more, this is far scummier in my opinion, is what Steven Speck did. Now, Speck earned his way to this Pro Tour by top 8ing a modern GP, playing, I believe it's Amulet Bloom is the name of the deck. So it's the deck with Amulet of Vigor, Summer Bloom, a whole bunch of the bounce lands, Primeval Titan, etc. And he was disqualified because he was palming the perfect opening 7 cards, like the best hand you could have, and he presented a 53 card deck for his opponent to shuffle. I believe the 7 cards were like in his lap. Like either way, he had like the best hand set aside, presented a 53 card deck, and then would take those 7 cards and put them on top. Which begs the question, why? Ultimately we'll never know the answer, but he earned his way through a modern GP. He made many misplays on camera, which, okay, given we all make misplays as Magic players. Like, no one plays truly perfectly. But he made some very basic mistakes on camera. And he got, over the course of the tournament, I think it was 5 perfect turn 1 kills. And the cards for a turn 1 kill in Amulet Bloom are very specific. I think it's you need 6 specific or 7 specific cards. So the chances of getting it are, astronomically low. And getting it 5 times over a tournament is, he had a good lucky streak. So he was also disqualified. And so those were the disqualifications in day one. And then there was something that happened that was, I think, unfortunate for the Magic community as a whole. And that was what happened with Patrick Chapin. For those of you that haven't seen what happened or didn't pay attention, Chapin was instructed by the judges to move or to play faster. And by accident, he played a second land on a turn, but that's not the reason he was the reason I'm talking about it. The real reason I'm talking about it, because I think that was just a mistake that happens. The real reason is he played in a Johnny Mentor of Heroes, +1'd it, and added a card to his hand, which has to be an aura, creature, or planeswalker, and he did not reveal it to his opponent. He put it into his hand. At this point, the table judge stops him and gives him a warning upgraded to a game loss for drawing extra cards. Now, the penalty for drawing extra cards is exactly what the judge said. It's a warning that gets upgraded if the card is not uniquely identifiable. I myself have had some judge calls where an opponent, like at competitive REL, opponent cast a spell, said, oh, that shouldn't have happened, and he put the card instead of his graveyard back into his hand. But that card was uniquely identifiable. Both players knew exactly what it was. Both players knew that was the card, so it was a warning that could have been upgraded to a game loss, but the head judge backed with my ruling that said, okay, the card is uniquely identifiable. We can downgrade that one to a warning. Keep it as a warning. But what happened with Chapin, and this is why there's this whole discussion going on, is the fact that Chapin was on camera, and the fact that Chapin was on camera and everybody notices that he made a legal action. So now there's this whole discussion about, okay, can we use footage or not? And this is where the rules that are set in place are so that way the rules are consistent, so no one who's on coverage gets special treatment. I totally smell burning. Hold up, I'm gonna make sure I'm not burning down the house while I'm away. Rest in peace, spider that was in that light. Anyway, so the reason there's this whole discussion going on is I honestly, like, there are some people that are quite vehemently opposed to what happened. But I side with the judges on exactly how this was. Is video footage cannot be used, or like shouldn't be necessarily used, because it creates a different standard for players playing in the featured match versus those that are not. And it does, like, the tournament was already running behind it. If you go and look at the footage and it's like, oh yeah, that's clearly the card he drew, that's not the reason the infraction happened. And then the other people were talking, and then it was like, oh, it's when the card touches the other cards in your hand, whether it be face up or face down. Like, if you're, for Chapin specifically, they were on the table in front of him, and he added it to his hand by touching the other cards. And that is the formal definition of adding cards to hand. But that's not my problem with all this. My problem with all this was that they kept the cameras rolling during the judging process. And not only that, there was... So the fact that the cameras were still rolling during the process is, it's a little bit like invasive of privacy, in my opinion. Like, this is a conversation between a judge and some players trying to determine exactly what happened and determine the appropriate response. But what should definitely never happen is have the commentators, who, in the essence of course, filling time and trying to explain the situation, talk in a way that's degrading to the player himself. Talk about how he played in the 90s, and in the 90s you could get away with a lot more, and how he's trying to weasel his way out of a game loss. He's not trying to weasel... I mean, yes, he doesn't want to lose, clearly. Like, if we're all playing Magic, we want to play Magic. We don't want to just, like, lose. But he's trying to explain it in a way to the judge, so that he is trying to clearly come across to the judge about what has happened. He's not being scummy about it. He is trying to the best of his ability, explain to the judge why what he did should not have warranted a game loss. He's not trying to... That is the part that bothered me. I watched it live, and I rewatched it, and this second and third time, I'm just sitting here listening to the commentary and saying, cut to anything else. That's just... It's so wrong. And I don't even want to, like, I'm certain everyone has, they do, but there's some serious reflection that can be learned, even though, like, this video is completely informal in every way, shape, and form. This is just me talking into my mic. There's still so much that can be learned just on self-reflection and analysis about coverage. Now, everyone can sit and rant about Wizards coverage and whether or not it's better than SG or whatever. I don't care about that. I think that it's very important to do that. or like to reflect about what has happened and what should be shown, what should not should be shown, when you should talk away, when should you like not speak ill of players, especially those like this was it was the last match of the round, the last game. They're in turns, and then it gets delayed even further. And I can only imagine that for newer players, this sort of video coverage is incredibly discouraging for going to like a Grand Prix or a PTQ even, or like PPTQs now. Like imagine how disheartening it is to be like, this pro player drew an extra card, but then he got a game lost, and the judge, like, I think the judges handled it fantastically. I think what should have happened, and probably would have been better, would be cut away when there's an investigation, and then allow the head judge to present a brief, 1 to 2 minute explanation of what happened a round later to explain, because like if there's a judge call on camera, like you do that. I would say that would be good. So that way the judge has an opportunity to explain and gather his thoughts and have a nice, clear response. So that way, especially the newer players have a very good understanding about what happened, and so they are not scared off by possible like rules. It's not rules lawyering, but I think you understand what I mean. So that's my thoughts about that. This is just like a ranty vloggy thing, and that's okay. And lastly, so then the last one that was cheating was Felipe Valdivia, who's playing at the 6-0 bracket. This one was on this did occur on day 1, but it wasn't caught till like it didn't get popular until day 2. So they're playing, it's like the Abzan control versus Esper control matchup. The Abzan player top decks End Hostilities and casts it, and it's all great. And then Felipe, in the process of taking his creatures and moving them to the graveyard, he takes a scry land that he owns and returns it to his hand. Now, of course, the board is basically empty, barring a Narset, but he pulled a pretty fast sleight of hand on camera, picking up the land. He would say, "Oh, picking up a land, that should be good." He picked up a scry land, which is relevant because the opponent has no cards in hand, just top deck and hostilities. The board is essentially clear with a Narset in play, and the opportunity to be able to scry an extra card is incremental at best. Like I would say the Esper controller was like 98% to win that match. Like he was super favored, and so then he goes ahead and this is not a oops. This is an active going about picking up, like in the process picking up the card, added to his hand. It was very smooth, very like it seems sort of deliberate, and no DQs for it, as far as I'm aware, though the footage is out there. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think the moral of this story is don't cheat in Magic, please. Especially players going to the Pro Tour. Like, please. That's all I can really say. It's something I'm like really passionate about is trying to stop cheaters in Magic. I was cheated when I first started many times. Made the game very sour for me. Anyway, that's it for my ranty vloggity thing. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't plan on doing many of these. If you guys want to see more of my just random rants and thoughts, I can totally do that. Just mention it down below in the comments. Anyway, thank you guys all for watching.